So I love it. A wide variety of creatives. You guys are all tuning in. We're definitely going to be digging into what it looks like to start to educate and speak in your specific industry, and then just it as a creative in general. But let Jess introduce herself a little bit, so you guys aren't like, who is this girl with Kat? Like, what's going on? She has purple hair. I don't understand. So Jess, why don't you just tell them a little bit more about you and about your background?
So I'm like, Kat is with pink, but that's me with purple. Hold on, I think I'm echoing for you, Emma. Is it echoing bad on your end?
Echo, but I can mute. It's not echoing for me, but let me mute in case, and you guys pop into the chat and let us know if it starts to do weird echoes or things for you.
Maybe it's just me, but now I don't hear it. So maybe that's wonderful. Whatever you did, it's magic. So I'm Jessica Rasdall, and I'm a motivational speaker and public speaking strategist for creatives. And I actually started my speaking journey back in 2006. Not to age myself or anything, I keep the purple hair to feel young. But speaking was never part of the plan for me. I never set a goal or decided I wanted to be an educator. It was a way of survival for me. I was 18 years old when I made a horrible decision that changed everything. And I was out with my best friend who I'd known since I was 5. We ended up drinking. I drove us home and crashed the car. And Laura was killed on impact. And it's one of those moments in your life where you're like at a crossroads of, what do I do from here? And for me, the only option, like the only way to get through this, was to prevent somebody else from repeating my mistake. So I dove headfirst into speaking, which I don't recommend, by the way, but I dove headfirst into speaking because I needed that to keep going. And that was over 12 years ago. And on that journey, I learned so much through success and a lot of failures. And when I first started my creative practice, I was working with creatives to help them take those difficult stories like mine and share them in a way that served others, but also protected yourself, because sometimes it's very difficult to figure out, how much do we actually share? At what point are we just hurting ourselves, rehashing things? And at how much do I have to share in order to help somebody else? Because I know this can help somebody else. So that's where I started with everything. But when we are really good at something or really close to something, we don't always see that, and we can be so blind to the things that are our best gifts. So all this time I'm doing this work on story and not realizing that, I'd spent a decade speaking. I could probably help some people with that. And until I spoke at my first creative conference, and I asked the organizer, hey, would you mind if I just hosted a little free online training for all the speakers? I just want to show them a really easy way to write their talks to make sure that it's really high value and the vision that you have for the event is being carried through. Kind of just selfishly, I wanted it to be an awesome event because I was my first conference I was attending as a creative, and I wanted to learn a lot. But it was incredible. At the event though, like in the hallway chat, which I feel like can be some of the most valuable pieces of a conference, I was hearing people talk about how much they were learning at the event, and they didn't expect that. And it floored me, because here people were investing, over $2,000 to go to an event, and they weren't necessarily anticipating to learn anything. What? That's not okay. So then I started to dig a little deeper and realize that, outside looking in, we see people speaking and we just assume that they are so far ahead of us, or they have it together, or they've done this for a long time, when in reality, our industry was a lot of blind leading the blind. Oh, I'm in it for the swag bags too. And the blind leading the blind, meaning we had become really good business owners. We were very well versed in our craft, but maybe we had never been to a real speaking engagement before, or, so there was a lot of stuff that wasn't being considered, or stuff that wasn't being looked at, or maybe educators who didn't know how to structure their content and serve the audience from the stage. So then I started partnering with creatives to help them write their talks and help them figure out the best way to do that. And it has just been so neat to watch education in our industry kind of evolve and put a higher emphasis on actual education. As you hear Kat always talk about, not just being a speaker, but being an educator. versus somebody maybe just trying to snag some spotlight. It's been a bit of a journey.
Sorry, I muted myself and I forgot that I muted myself. Wholeheartedly agree to all of that. And I think it's so interesting, and I'd love for us to touch on this for a minute, just because you brought it up when you were just talking. There's a difference between being an educator and being a speaker. And a lot of times we forget that, and we think like, oh, well, this person has really awesome blog content, or this person, is starting to maybe host some courses, or, host a webinar or two. But does that mean that they understand how to craft what they're teaching into a talk that can then truly empower people, either from the stage or not from the stage? So what are your thoughts on that, when people, maybe we feel like they call themselves an educator and then therefore they just start speaking, but they don't understand how to write that talk or how to really get the message across in the best way? Maybe they're not the best public speaker. They're really great writing that blog content, but don't give them the microphone because they don't understand, what it looks like to then really talk about the content that they're writing about. So how have you seen that play out in the industry, and what are your thoughts on that?
I love this question because I have really found that I feel like the biggest frustration when us, as a creative, as we're trying to step into that role and be that influencer in the industry, whether we want to be this educator or the speaker, however we want to look at it, that the biggest frustration is we look at it as one size fits all. And what qualification do I need in order to get started? And it just doesn't work that way at all. And we have to really figure out what it is that you want to do, how you want to serve people, whether that's serving the organizers, the speakers, your own business, yourself. What does that path look like for you, so you know what to take? So I can speak from experience from working with a lot of creatives in our industry, and probably writing a talk or two that you've heard. It's very interesting to watch people when they first come to me, because it's all across the board. So I'll have a creative who is mind blowing with content. They're cranking stuff out every week. It is so high value. That's not my thing. I wish I was better at that, but I'm not. And, but then they come because they've been asked to speak at an event because of their incredible content, and they're terrified. They're terrified, and their pain points are usually around, but I can't speak freely on this, or I don't know how to make a personal connection on this. And they understand that I'm really good at helping people achieve X, Y, and Z, but I don't know how to connect with them from the stage. I don't know how to make this personal. I don't know. And those kind of talks are super easy for me to write because they already come to the table with the content. So note there that if you are wanting to write a talk and you want to write an educational talk that is going to teach somebody maybe how to design their website, or how to improve their SEO, or how to do something, if you're not creating that content in your own business, you're really going to struggle to write the talk. So I would challenge you to create the content before you ever write the talk. But if you already have that content and you come to me and we're going to write a talk, it's very easy to figure out how we put you into the education. But trying to make up or improvise education to fit into your story is a lot more difficult. So if you are wanting to speak on a topic that is educational in any way, it's really important to work on that content first. Now, on the other side of things, not every event or not every speaking opportunity is very educational and structured. Even Kat likes to have speakers at her event that are doing a more heartfelt message and that are maybe inspiring you or sparking something in you to change. And I mean, Kat even challenged us at the end of Creative at Heart that maybe this isn't for you. You're not going to hear that at every event. And so how do you know if that's a right fit for you? And I feel like that one's a little tougher to figure out if you're ready to speak on something a little more heartfelt, because we've all been through difficult things. And sometimes we feel like if we've been through something difficult, we have to share that. And it's not true. And if you haven't necessarily been through something gut-wrenching, it doesn't mean you don't have value to share. It's just a matter of, why do you want to share that? What's the difference? Are you sharing it just because you want to talk about it? Because that's what therapy's for. Or are you sharing it because you know that there's somebody out there who needs to hear it, and that you have that positive twist, or you have that message of hope for them? Because if that's the spot you're in, that's going to be a powerful presentation. And that was a whole lot of rambles, and I'm sorry.
No, that was perfect. I loved that a lot. And I think because there is a distinction with if again, people who consider an educator in our industry, or those of you who are tuning in now and who say like, yeah, I feel like I educate, it's because of that content that you're already sharing, right? So then it is flipping that and saying, okay, now how can I share this from the speaking perspective? Whereas some people say, you know what, they're more than happy to consider themselves an educator and not move into the speaking role. And that's okay too. I think it's when you jump to speaking before the educating comes in, just like you said, it's really hard to craft a talk when you've never written the content before, because you don't know, not only is it hard just because you're literally starting at square one, but you also don't know how it's going to be received. What are questions your audience is going to ask you? Is it something that your audience looks at you as an expert in that industry or in that field already, and you then should craft a talk around it? So I think it's really important to, for those of you guys listening who are thinking about, stepping into speaking roles, understand what you would want to speak about based on content that you've already shared that's resonated really well with your audience, or maybe content that you've been holding back on that you're like, man, I just need to get that confidence and like put it out there and share it, because I really think that this could then become more signature for me and something that I'm known for speaking on. We brought up SEO with Davey and Krista of the Palm Shop. Like, they are my SEO experts. And it's so funny. I feel like sometimes Davey's like, we don't want to talk about SEO anymore. And I'm like, sorry, dude, like, this is what you do. Like, I can't, you're so good at it, because their content is so spot on for making SEO simple, because SEO is so hard to understand, and they've crafted years of content that then they can transfer over to this stage in a way that's more natural for them. So we have to think about that in our own business versus just deciding one day, oh, I want to be a speaker, and then trying to figure out what we want to speak on. It starts at the content first, which I love.
Yeah, and I'll be very transparent with you that it is very difficult to write the talk on my side. So I couldn't imagine trying to do it for yourself. Sorry if you hear my small human singing, by the way. She's just in the other room just singing to herself. Talk about therapy. So that one. So when, like, if you, for example, if you came to me and you're like, Jess, I want to hire you, we need to write this talk, I'm speaking at Creative at Heart, I'm going to ask you very specific questions before we ever get on a call together. And those are going to be things like, why are you the person to speak on this topic? What does your audience struggle most with on this topic? What's going to help them get a quick result? How do they overcome that? Like, really technical questions, because that's the stuff that I can't craft for you. I don't know anything about SEO. I can't write that talk, but if you bring the education to the table, I can make the rest of the magic happen. And so it's very difficult to sit down and say, I'm going to serve the audience through this. I know what they need. I know where to help them. I know how to help them. I know what questions they're going to ask if we haven't done that work yet.
Absolutely. So what are, so we've talked about how it's obviously content is first, like content is king, which I feel like we've talked about in some of my other coffee chats too, guys. So we're not trying to like beat a dead horse or whatever that saying is. We're just saying, like, content really matters when it comes to like your audience and setting yourself up as the expert on whatever it is that you're talking about. But once you have the content, then what? So you're starting to blog more about, maybe a wide variety of topics. I don't have one specific topic that I feel like I've niched down on, like how Davey and Krista have with SEO, or my friend Megan Martin, who was on here a couple weeks ago with Instagram, how she is really focusing on marketing in general and all those tools. If you look at my blog, it's kind of a wide variety. I've got some wedding planner marketing, I've got some business, I've got like lifestyle and heartfelt. But once you start pumping out all of that content and really starting to figure out what your audience is looking for, how do you then attract the conference or attract the workshop? Or how do you really start to set yourself out there and say, okay, I've been blogging about this for a while now. I've been showcasing that I am an expert in this field. Now I do want to educate in terms of a speaking role. How do you get to that point? So Jess, I'd love for us to talk a little bit about how they can do that, like really practical ways that they can start to put themselves out there as a speaker in the industry. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts.
I love that. I do want to make one quick note before I answer that one, because I just was realizing I was talking so much about content creation. And I'm remembering there are a bunch of you in here who are service providers, like virtual assistants and photographers and things like that. And I do, or not even photographers, not a good example on that, but like a virtual assistant or like if you're a business coach, a lot of times that can feel like, maybe I haven't been creating a ton of content over the last few years, but I've been doing this work for a really long time and I've been getting my clients really good results. That's fine. And it's time to start creating the content, which we're about to hit on. But I think that's the biggest point is if you've gotten the results for yourself and you think that means I can talk about it, I'm sorry, but it doesn't. If you're able to get the result for somebody else, that should be the point where you say, okay, I can teach on this. So if you, the blog posts don't make you a speaker. It's helpful, but it doesn't make you a speaker. That's perfect, Amber. But if you, for example, have only written, let's say, for example, we had a virtual assistant or a copywriter is a really good one because I work with Ashlyn Carter. So this is perfect. So if you have been a copywriter for a really long time and you've done an amazing job at writing copy for your clients, that's awesome. And I'm really happy your business has been successful. But if you haven't taught somebody else how to write that copy, you're going to struggle creating the content. So we need to, if we're not yet teaching somebody else how to duplicate our own success, it's really hard to teach from the stage. Just mom, prego brain over here. I had to make sure I hit on that.
Thank you. That is so true because speaking, educating in general isn't just regurgitating information. It's actually taking that and saying, this is how it's applied to me and how I've now showed other people how to do it. So now I'm well equipped to teach others how to do it. Speaking, and this is my own little soapbox just from like a conference host perspective, I feel like, but speaking is just like you were saying before, it's not all about you. And we'll get into like why you should speak in a little bit. We have so many things to talk about. But speaking isn't all about you as the speaker. You're serving that audience. And I can't rightly get up on the stage and teach them something if I don't know that I have clients that have seen results from what I have taught them. I would feel terrible to get up on a stage and give them how-to steps for whatever the topic might be if I don't actually know that somebody can duplicate what I've done. So you have to have that teaching in there. So I think that's a great point, Justin. I'm really, really glad that you made that.
Yeah, sorry, it was a little out of order, but we're fine. But yes, so like for me, for example, I may have started speaking over a decade ago, but I didn't start speaking on speaking until I knew the results that I could get for somebody else. I was speaking on a very personal topic. I was speaking around overcoming adversity. But even in those early years, I had a mentor who mentored me. So as I got moving and started gaining momentum and speaking to, tens of thousands of people, I started mentoring other people on a similar journey. And it was never a business structure. It was just that calling inside that I had to go do. I had to help them. And, so over the years, I knew what it took to get somebody else the same results, whether that was something I was being compensated for or not. And then when I started building my own coaching practice, I was writing talks behind the scenes for creatives that nobody even knew about for at least a year before I ever delivered a presentation on how to write a talk or how to become a speaker, anything like that, because I want to know that audience member inside, outward, frontward, backwards. I want to know the questions you're going to ask for before you ever think to ask it. So side note. So jumping back to the question you asked about what are the practical things we can do to get started? I think that is so great. So if you do happen to be that person who maybe hasn't been creating those blogs and educational pieces of content yet, do it. But I know Kat's going to say the exact same thing that I'm about to say, but talk is cheap. And anybody can get up and say that I'm a great speaker or, that I make a deep connection, I'm a good educator, but they want to see it. So you may not be at a point yet where you have a demo reel or you have a bunch of speaking footage. That's okay. You will create it as you're going. But right now, Kat, the second you apply to speak or you reach out to her, she's going to go, I'll tell you what she's going to do. She's going to go look at your Instagram stories to see if you speak, if you're actually communicating well. She's going to see if you have a YouTube channel. She's going to look to see if you have videos on your website, because every organizer I have talked to over the last 6 months now, They're not saying yes to a speaker if they can't get a taste of what it's like to have you on the stage, because like she's putting her neck out on the line by saying yes. And if she hasn't been able to see you in person, the next best thing for her is to get a taste via video of what you would be like educating. Yeah, you do. You do
Absolutely.
That.
Amen. And what's really cool now is it used to be when I would say that like a year ago, when I would tell people to do that, everybody would like freak out a little bit, right? Because if they're like, oh, well, I don't really know how to take good videos on my computer to like put on my blog, or I'm not a YouTuber. Like, I don't know how to do that. And Insta Story, it's like saves the day for that for me. Yes, it's casual. You can be talking about your trip to Target. Like, it can be a wide variety of things that you talk about. I'm not necessarily, as a conference host, looking at your Insta Story and saying like, is she giving valuable content on Insta Story? If I see valuable content in other avenues, your Insta Story can be like silly, like doggy ears and like a fun, I don't know, the sparkle background, whatever it needs to be. But I'm looking at, are you speaking? And not just like showing things and not showing your face. Like, I want to see your face. I want to see your eye contact. I want to see how well you can speak about whatever it is that you're talking about. Because while yes, that is a little bit different looking at your phone versus looking at an audience of 100 plus, it's still talking out loud and being able to showcase what you're talking about in a way that I can understand it and I can respond well to that. So Insta Story is like the one thing I preach to people all the time who email and say like, I want to like start speaking. Like, what is your biggest tip for me? I'm like, use Insta Story. It's free. It's easy. It's right on your phone. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to have crazy lighting. Just start utilizing that on your on the regular, so that if somebody's looking at you to speak, if you apply to speak, and like what Jessica said, I'm going to start stalking you. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go follow you on all of those channels that I'm available to follow you on and understand even more about you, especially if we don't already have some sort of personal connection. So that's what any conference organizer or workshop organizer wants to do, is get to know you more. So make sure you're utilizing them on the regular. Another tip I would say, and I would love to get your thoughts on this too, Jess, is it's really helpful from a conference organizer standpoint to see speaking on your website. You do not have to have the demo reel yet. You could have, and this is where it's like that fake it till you make it thing, guys. Like, this could be the very first time you've ever pitched to a conference. We get that a lot at Creative at Heart. A lot of our alumni come back and now they want to start speaking. They've never spoken before and they want to speak at Creative at Heart. And I love that. We love to be the first time for so many people. It's really helpful when they have something about speaking on their website, on your business page or the contact page or something like that. And not just saying like, available for speaking engagements, please contact here, giving me a little bit more. Why? Almost like pitching yourself on your website. Why are you speaking? What are your signature talks? Especially if I'm on the hunt for people and I want to know, okay, well, what does she feel like she's an expert in to write a talk on? I don't know. I can look at your blog and like make wild guesses. But if you already have some of those things, that's so helpful from the organizer's standpoint to really understand, okay, this person's a great fit and like personality wise, and look, they have a signature talk they've already done or they're excited to do for the first time that fits the puzzle piece, the missing puzzle piece for our educator lineup. And it just helps my process as the organizer so much. So I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, I guess I've got a few things on that one. So first off, yeah, nobody's going to hire you to speak if they don't know you're a speaker. Nobody's reading your mind. Nobody's looking at what you're dreaming about doing next week. I'm sorry. Like, you have to tell them. It's like, Chad does not know to empty that dishwasher unless I tell him. It's not going to happen. So like, you have to tell the organizer that you are ready to speak. And, but there's a few things that I would say when it comes to adding speaking to your website that I really want you to consider. Just like doing videos on Insta Stories or YouTube videos or website videos, whatever you have, there's a really important piece to that beyond the content. It's your style and how you deliver, is because every speaker is not going to be the same. Like my mentor, he's a man and he's over the top excited. Like, he will come in dancing and he's got you all fired up. He's got everybody high-fiving. Like, I'm probably going to make you cry. We are very different. And when you're curating that speaker lineup, you're looking for different personalities, you're looking for different styles, and maybe somebody who's really funny, or somebody who is very high energy, or somebody who is very heartfelt. That stuff shines through in your video content and on your speaker webpage. So it's really important to figure out, what is it that I bring to the table when I'm going to speak? What does my speaker brand feel like? How do I want the audience to feel after I give a presentation, so that you can make sure it's cohesive through everything? Because I've seen it. Where we have the web page that says we're a motivational speaker, but we are straight up Eeyore on Insta Stories, complaining about everything. Life is hard, woe is me. And that just doesn't mesh well. So figure out, what is it that you want people to remember about you? How do you want to make them feel? And bring that consistently to the table, because we want the experience on the stage to be the same as the experience on the Insta Story. You don't want to be fake up there. You want to be you. And it's really important to figure out what that is now, so that can be carried through consistently. I do think it's really important, just like Kat said, to add a speaking page to your website. We actually have a blog post on it next week with all the details, because it's a question we get a lot about, how do you add it? So I do want to give you a few tactical things that you can do for adding speaking to your website. Now, you have to be very careful about determining who is my speaking audience and who's my business audience. So for example, I do a lot of speaking at high schools and universities and places outside of the creative space. So if I have all of that information on my public speaking strategist page, it's going to confuse people. And it did confuse people, because it used to be on the same page. So we've had to separate that. But if you're a photographer who educates on photography, it's not going to be a big disconnect. Add that sucker right to your existing web page. You can go do it right now. I'm sure it's a click of a button to add a page. Then adding that speaking page. Now, I would highly recommend, here, just grab a pen right now. So put your speaker page in third person. The reason for this is, yes, you might be speaking at a lot of creative events, but I'm hoping that you grow and evolve and you speak outside of that. And the reason we put it in third person is, sometimes the person doing the dirty work and having to research you or pull your information is not the decision maker. So Kat might have her amazing assistant, Emily, go pull your signature talk or your bio or things like that and bring it to a meeting. And if Emily is reading it out loud as, I'm a great speaker or XYZ, it just doesn't come across as well. So just make it really easy. Put your speaking materials, all of them in third person. And it makes it really easy for an organizer to copy and paste that into their marketing materials. Let's just keep it easy for everybody. So I would highly recommend putting it in third person, even if the rest of your website is in first. It's totally fine. It's not going to piss anybody off. The other thing that, just like Kat said, is making sure you have a signature talk. So making a long bullet point, I'm the speaking coach, a list of bullet points around, I like to speak on social media, photography, SEO, parenting, that just confuses people. And again, she won't know where to put you on a lineup. So get really clear on, these are the things that I'm really good at. Now, you could totally have a little note below that around, like, I'm also experienced, or I love to chat on these other things, but having 1 to 3 would be awesome, but 1 is cool. 1 to 3 fleshed out signature talk stating, this is the topic, this is who it's for, this is what you're going to get when you come to it, makes it really easy for Kat to know, are you a good fit for the event? And I match speakers with organizers, so I know, are you going to be a good fit? Do you already know what you're talking about, or is this a look at me type of presentation? Because we don't want that. And make sure you have a bio. Make sure you have a bio there so that they know who you are, what you do. They're going to want the quick and dirty. They don't want to go find your about page. Keep it all in one spot. The thing I will say is, when it comes to your speaking page, we're finding this problem right now. And I've come across a few organizers who have gotten a little upset about this. Kat, I don't know if you feel the same way. I'd love for you to chime in on this. But we are finding that a few organizers have been getting upset, and they're feeling almost duped because some creatives have been listing online summits and online speaking as past speaking experience without distinguishing the difference. And there is a big difference between giving, please, just a side note, don't ever repurpose a webinar into a presentation. They need to be structured differently. But if you have spoken online at online summits, that's awesome. But I would make the distinction on your page that it was from an online summit, that it wasn't an in-person. I think it might just be personal preference with some of the organizers that have come to me on it. But just as a disclaimer, some people have been kind of feeling like it's misleading in a way to say that I spoke at this event when it wasn't an actual in-person event. Just a side note. How do you feel about that? Just Gary, I haven't had a chance to ask you this, so I'm putting you on the spot.
That's actually, no, that's a good question. No, it's actually something I've never really thought about before. I feel like for me, I think it's good. I'm sorry, I'm mom brain for me now. What am I even trying to say? I think it's still good to list it because it is you educating in some capacity. Even like old podcast episodes or past things that you've been on, you're speaking. So again, even if it's not on the stage, it's still giving valuable content, and you can hear how someone's personality is and the flow through that. But I do think that it is probably helpful to have listed, even if you list it on the top, like past online and in-person speaking engagements, and then you like have the logos underneath, or you list out what those are, or you have them broken up, just so you don't feel like you are telling somebody two different things. I have never run into an issue and felt like somebody just had all these online engagements listed, and then I contacted them and realized they'd never spoken in person before. But I can totally see how it can be a little bit misleading. So I feel like just having that on there, but don't be afraid to list, like still list past webinars and podcasts and things that you've been a part of. Because again, if you're just getting started, you don't have that demo reel, that's helpful for that organizer to go on and listen to that podcast or watch that webinar and still get somewhat of a feel for how you would present and how you would speak if you don't have that demo reel.
I love that. I think it's so important to include it, especially as you're getting started. But I think that point is just making the distinction of, like, to say that I have spoken at this event or this, I think the thing was because it was positioned like I've spoken at this conference and it was an online summit. And she was like, no, you haven't. And again, it has nothing to do with that you shouldn't list it. I think you should list it because we want to know that that somebody selected you as an educator on something, that you've had experience delivering this content, but maybe it's in a different structure. It just helps that organizer know how to guide you and prepare you for the in-person event because it is a little bit different. Podcast, awesome. And just that same mindset of, put what you have right now and it will evolve. The more opportunities you have, you can switch, you can drop off some of those other things and include some of the more recent stuff. So I love that.
Yes. There were a couple questions, and one of them, Emily's just fits, I feel like, perfectly with like next steps. So I'd love to go ahead and talk about that right now. She asked, what do you find to be the biggest purpose of speaking? A primary source of revenue from speaking fees, or a means to direct event attendees to your primary business, products, or services? And I know that you are passionate about the variety of different ways that you can be a speaker. And as speakers, we need to understand going into an event why we're going into this event so that we can say yes or no from the get-go, and then understand that, and I'll say this quick little thing before we jump into this question, but speaking isn't just a one and done thing, y'all. You are, and I know this from being a speaker at past experiences, you're putting a lot of work into the content that you're creating for these attendees. And so it's not just thinking about, okay, well, it's going to be a travel day and then 2 days at the event and then another travel day. So it's like approximately 4 days. But maybe I can get some work done in the hotel room. Like, you have a lot of work that you're doing leading up to the event in terms of just crafting your talk, but then also a lot of conference organizers will ask that you promote their event because you're an educator and they want people to know that you're an educator. So there's a lot of things that you're doing before you even get to the speaking engagement. So we have to have a very clear understanding of why we're doing this speaking engagement so we can determine, is it worth our time? Is it a valuable thing for me to do in my business? So I love to hear from you, Jess, like the various ways that you feel like people should be or should not be speaking in our industry and why.
Oh, I love this question, Emily. I just adore you. You heard me probably soapbox this a little bit speaking at the Rising Tide Leaders Retreat. So this is my biggest pet peeve when it comes to speaking, and not even a pet peeve, but I think this is the first step. I feel like all of us, if we're getting ready to take a leap into the speaking world, like this should be your very first step, is figuring out what path are you heading down. And before I go too far down this, I want to make sure we all understand that you don't make a decision today and it never changes. And it doesn't mean you can't go down more than one path. So I think it is incredibly important to determine why you're speaking. I break speaking up into 3 different tiers. And that's just, I'm not very creative with coming up with names. So that's what I call them. And so if you ever hear me refer to speaking, like that's how I figure out how to help you initially. Like the first time I meet you, I'm going to want to know in my head, do I categorize this as a tier 1, 2, or 3? Just so I know how to advise you or how to answer your question. So I categorize tier 1 as pre-launch phase, we can call this. So maybe you don't have any products or services yet, but maybe you're thinking about that. You know that later on this year, you're going to launch a course and you want to start getting your name out there in the industry and start building that expert status. That's what I would consider tier 1. Tier 2 is more of, I want to speak because I want to convert. I want to add more clients to my roster, or I want to sell more courses or programs or products, but I'm there for a very strategic reason. And then tier 3 is more of, this is a stream of revenue for me, and I want to speak at opportunities that are going to pay me up front, and I'm there to serve. That's it. So what that comes down to is understanding what fits you right now. Because if you're saying that I want to be a tier 3 speaker, I want this to be a massive stream of revenue for me. I want those big checks to go speaking at a creative conference is probably not the best fit for you. And I'm just going to say it right now. I need it to be really clear. So I speak in tier 2 and 3. So I'll be very transparent with you on this right now. Just because I'm assuming none of my tier 3 clients are on the call. And what I mean by that is when like next month, for example, if you follow me on social media, you'll get the sneak peek behind the scenes. I'm speaking at a university in California that is very much a tier 3 presentation for me, where there is a large keynote fee to make it happen. A lot of work goes into it. We've been working on putting on this event for 3 months, and that is a huge stream of revenue for me. However, speaking at a creative conference, that is a tier 2 for me. Sorry, I keep looking over here because my child, I don't know what she's doing. Do we need to wash our hands? Is that what we're doing? I should not have let her have that snack a second ago. Go ahead. Tier 2. So for creative events, that means that I know I want to be speaking at an event where my ideal clients are going to be there. And you really want to flip that switch in your head from revenue to marketing activity. So for me, it's an opportunity to get in front of my ideal clients, just as maybe you would run a Facebook ad. You're going to go speak at this event in order to make those conversions. The kicker here is if you're speaking in tier 2, don't skimp on writing your talk. Because if you're going into this with the mindset of, I'm going to make conversions, I'm in front of my dream clients, you need to make sure you write that talk strategically so that actually happens for you. Otherwise, you're going to end up spending all this money, going to all these conferences, delivering all these presentations, taking time off work, getting childcare, whatever that looks like for you, and you don't make the conversion. So if you're in tier 2, if that's where you feel like you need to be, invest in that presentation. And if you're in tier 1 and you probably don't have any way to make a conversion right away, you don't have a spot on your roster, whatever that looks like, stay as close to home as you can. because then it doesn't become a huge investment. So if there's any opportunities in your own backyard, or at least in your time zone, because like California talk, I wouldn't be doing that for free. That's costing me an arm and a leg in travel expenses. So it's really important to figure out where you fit into that. And we actually, we have a quiz. So if you don't know, you can just take the quiz and it will tell you what you're, that's why I know Emily's like tier 3, because Emily's taken the quiz already. You can go to the publicspeakingstrategist.com/quiz, and it will just ask you 10 questions, and it'll spit out tier 1, 2, or 3 and tell you these are the events that you should be at. This is what you should be doing right now, because it's not one size fits all. But as a creative, it's really important to figure out, why are you speaking? What does this look like for you? Are you building credibility? Are you growing your business? Because that's going to be that distinction. 2 seconds. I don't think we can reach the towel.
I love that. And I, while she runs over there for a second to help Chloe, something that I think is also really important to like just make a distinction on, guys. I'm really glad that Jessica brought up that tier 3, you're probably not seeking at creative conferences, because as a creative conference host, we're not able to pay our educators thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which is what then adds as like a mass revenue stream for your business, right? So the majority of our speakers at Creative at Heart, for example, are tier 1 and tier 2. And I feel like that it's a good assumption to make that the majority of just creative conferences in general. So all of those creative conferences that we love and have like on our bucket list, their speakers are probably tier 1 and tier 2, not tier 3, because there's just not the money on the creative side of things for it to be a mass revenue stream for all of our educators. Corporate schools, the things that Jessica is talking about. But I do want to make the distinction, that's something to remember, especially for like a tier 2 speaker, because tier 2 speaker, they've already built their brand a little bit, right? Like they've built awareness around their business. They're probably a sought after speaker. And you would think, oh, sought after have to be tier 3. Nope, they're probably sought after at tier 2. And they're just really strategic about what they say yes to and what they say no to for those talks. And one thing, just for all of you guys that are thinking about tier 2, it doesn't mean that you're not paid. It doesn't mean you're not a compensated speaker. It just might not be this mass revenue stream for your business. You might not be able to like stop all your coaching clients and just be a speaker because you're now speaking at the tier 2 level. But something that I feel really strongly about, and I know Jess does too, is that conference hosts do compensate their educators for in a wide variety of things. Sometimes that's travel and lodging. Sometimes that's additional compensation for time and talent. I mean, there's a wide variety of things that we can do, but it can still be compensated. It just might not be this crazy revenue stream for your business.
That is such a good point, because I think because like I see we have a 1.75, you know, it's that distinction of, it's not a black and white decision. It's not a yes and no. It's a it should be an ideal situation, a collaborative experience between the speaker and the organizer, and figuring out what's best for everybody. And most of my tier 2 speakers on my client roster, they are getting compensated, whether that is just for travel or travel plus a like speaker fee. May not be a massive speaker fee, but it helps make up for stepping away from work. But the main focus for them is understanding, I'm selective in where I'm going to speak. I'm not saying yes to every opportunity. I'm only saying yes to opportunities that are perfect fit for me, because they're running businesses. They're busy. They don't have time to say yes to everything if they're not going to make those conversions. You're just over here giving me thumbs up and down. So.
That's so cute. And no, it's so helpful to remember that it doesn't necessarily have to be as black and white as, okay, I'm only tier 2 or I'm only tier 1, or what that looks like. It can vary a little bit depending on that speaking engagement. And I like to think, and you can totally tell me if you feel like I'm like way out in left field, Jess, but I feel like you're not at tier 1 for very long, because you need to be helping your business in some way with this speaking engagement. So maybe you have a handful of engagements at a tier 1, but then you're quickly jumping up to tier 2 because you want to have some sort of opt-in or some sort of value that you can then provide to those attendees to then get those email addresses, or have them want to hire you for coaching, or for they maybe want to hire you as their VA or as their copywriter, or whatever it is, the service that you provide. So I hope that those of you who are like, okay, I'm definitely at a tier 1, don't plan to stay there for a long time, because I really want to challenge you to get to that tier 2 so that you're finding a little bit more value out of that speaking engagement, whatever that value looks like for you.
I'll be completely transparent. Like, you all can say what you want as speakers, but I promise you, after you do your first event, you're going to get the bug. You catch the bug. Like, it's just what happens. All my students, they say they're a tier 1 speaker. They deliver their first presentation, and then they're hooked. You just get hooked. There's this high that comes with serving people in person and getting to love on them and getting to see their reaction and how you're impacting them. Because it's so often that we create content online and we just hear crickets. And it is what it is. And we have to just have faith that it's impacting somebody. But when you're on a stage and you're seeing those breakthrough moments and you're having people come up to you afterwards and tell you how it impacted you, you're hooked. So yeah, I don't know anybody who stays at tier 1 very long, but I do, like, it's not a problem to have one or two of those sprinkled in. You know, if you're like, you know, if somebody has a local meetup and it's not your ideal audience, but it's not a big inconvenience for you to go to, sure, I'll do that, but don't stay there.
Good. I love that. So Linda, you asked a great question, so I'd love to answer that. So we popped the link for the quiz in there. Thanks, Jess, for doing that. So definitely, guys, pop over and do that. And then she asked, so how do you suggest someone who has a gift for speaking to begin to dive in and start using that gift? Is that what you were saying about IG stories to start there, or are there more suggestions you have?
That's such a good question.
Yeah. I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Sure. So I agree, though. It comes back to, where does that gift take you, right? So what does that gift look like? So if we feel like we have a gift for speaking, who are we called to serve? Are we called to serve creatives? Are we called to serve troubled youth? Are we called to serve people in foster care? What does that look like? That needs to be the first step, is figuring out, where are we going with this before we can ever figure out what kind of activities should we be doing. So if it is creatives, you need to be creating that content and doing those Insta stories and digging into that. I'd say, and I know Kat's going to feel strongly on this one as well, as much as it stinks to say, like, go spend the money, you need to go attend events. You need to attend events, because that is where the magic happens. That's where you're going to make those connections, build those relationships, and get a taste for what works and doesn't work. And I think I know an organizer or two who have preference over their alumni when it comes to selecting their speakers, because it's community and family. But if you're looking to speak maybe outside of the creative world, my biggest tip when getting started is always, always, always start in your backyard. Look for opportunities right in your hometown, whether that's schools or community groups or associations, because that is going to help you not invest, not break the bank getting started, but getting started without taking a bunch of time off of your business and booking travel and dealing with all those things. But the quiz result, I think the second email after the quiz literally tells you how to search for opportunities. So that should be really helpful for you. And if it doesn't make sense, just hit reply. I'm the person on the other end.
I love that. No, and I wholeheartedly agree with all of those. Like we talked about before, using some form of video and Insta Story is just free and easy and right there on your phone. So utilizing some sort of video, understanding who you're speaking for, and then if it's creative, start attending those events and make it a part of your budget for your business, whether it's your marketing budget, your education budget, a mixture of the two, that you're going and attending some of these events that you would ideally love to be a part of one day, so that do you really want to be a what you think it looks like on Instagram in person, because you might find that it's not, and that's okay too. Also, you're making those connections. So not only making a connection with like the conference organizer, but you're also making connections with other people who are there, and you're growing your network base. And you might then be able to do joint webinars or go attend another workshop or host somewhere else because of those connections that you make at an in-person event. So definitely suggest like going to in-person events and making at least one a year a priority in your business.
I love what you mentioned there about budgets, because I think that's something that we overlook a lot with speaking, and we just say yes to all the opportunities when we're getting started because we're excited. And then what I find is people get frustrated and burn out because they said yes to all those tier one opportunities. They invested all this money. They didn't make back any of their money. They're not seeing the growth, and then they just stop. So I think I personally, I'll tell you exactly what I do. Tier 3 is completely different because that's a source of revenue. But for tier 2 speaking, I just set a quarterly budget of what am I willing to invest in. And that would include everything: time off work, travel, any marketing materials that we need printed for this, all the things, the team members that have to be paid for things to work when you're there. I set a quarterly budget of what am I willing to allocate towards this marketing activity, because once you hit that, then you just can say no to things without making it an emotional decision. It just needs to be a smart business move.
100%. So other questions here, guys, and definitely pop them in before. We like to try to end around 2 because I know everybody's busy and we have a lot going on. So pop in any final questions in that ask a question section. But I see 2 more. Katrina asked, do you recommend the bio, so on our websites, be in third person as well as the speaking page?
I personally,
I'm confused by the question, but if you understand, then you go for it.
I think I got you. So on that, I would recommend, if you are somebody who speaks, you have a very conversational copy on your website, and your copy is typically in first person, like, hi friend, I'm this, and I'm so excited to work with you. Make sure that your about page, not your bio, but your about page can still in first person and is that conversational. So it feels like if a potential client was to ask you, like, who are you, or how do I know about this, or whatever, that they would feel like they're having that conversation with you. What you might want to do is at the bottom of that page is insert a short third person bio. This would be something that you would, if you were going on a podcast interview, you would submit to them for a question, or if you were speaking at an event and they needed a brief bio for their marketing materials. So even if your about or bio areas are in first person, make sure that you have a short, small paragraph, third person bio that can be used for other things. And I hope that makes sense.
I love that. Emily asked, would you add presentations at your local Rotary Club, etc., on your portfolio? It's not fancy, but it counts. LOL.
110% yes, because as somebody who would look for a speaker that is more experienced than not having anything listed. And again, I always want you to come to the table with that mindset of whatever I'm putting up there right now is temporary. And my speaking page is always going to evolve, and things will just get bumped off the page by bigger things. So like for media exposure too, for example, right now you might have like as seen on in a few podcasts. And when I first started, we had like some local news, but like those get dropped off when you have things like 2020 and Katie Couric and MTV and Netflix. They start to drop off the bottom. So it's really like starting with what you have and then kind of bumping those away as you get as the more relevant ones. And it is not a bigger. I think that's a really important part too, is you have to consider who you're talking to. So a big thing that has nothing to do with the person you're reaching out to might not be as important as something like I can't even think of an example, mom brain, but like, if we're doing something very wedding specific and you're talking about things that why did I pick weddings? I'm not in that industry, like the knot and these types of things that speak directly to that audience. They want to hear about that. It's going to be something else wouldn't matter as much. That was a lot of rambles. I apologize.
No, I love it. Okay, more questions. We have a couple that popped in. I want to really answer them all. Vanessa asked, how often should we be pitching cold, or should we just wait for contacts as we create good content?
I love this question. So you never pitch cold. I'm going to give you that. But doesn't mean I want you reaching out to people all the time, but you're never going to pitch cold. So let me break that one down for you. I literally have, I guess I can let you guys know the secret. shh, don't tell anybody. We're launching a podcast in 2 weeks. And don't tell anybody yet. Kat will be on it. But one of the first episodes that you're going to hear is around speaker directory websites and online dating and how they're very similar. So this is just kind of my spiel on this one is no, you can't sit around waiting for somebody to call you. They're not going to. It's not going to happen until you become incredibly sought after. Those just don't roll in if you're not doing things, if you're not actively out there. So yes, you need to be making those contacts. You need to be doing that outreach. You need to be doing the research and figuring out who it is that you need to be talking to. But what I don't want you to do is the mistake that a lot of us make in the beginning is making that first email a cold pitch. Nobody likes it. It doesn't feel good. I don't like to get the email that's like, I'm Joe Schmo and let me help you grow your Instagram. Like, we hate that, right? Or those are icky. So that's how that feels to an organizer. So, but should you be making that outreach and starting that connection? Absolutely. And I know Kat can speak to what comes across as really good and what has come across as really bad. But I am a firm believer that literally, if you can set aside just a certain amount of time every day or even one day a week to consistently be reaching out to people and building those relationships or doing the activities, it makes such a difference. Because what doesn't work is saying, okay, I want to speak right now, so I'm going to email 50 people today and then never do anything again afterwards. That doesn't work. It's the consistency. But I know you have had some good and bad emails.
Yeah, no, preach it. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that it does seem like kind of sleazy dating, to just in your very first time that you've ever reached out to somebody, you're not only introducing yourself in the first sentence, but then the next paragraph, you're saying, I want to be your next speaker. And here's why you should pick me. I think that it's really helpful if you can make those connections with organizers in a more natural and organic way. So maybe starting to become somebody who comments on their Instagram, comments back on Insta Story. Just I know that and you guys probably know too, the people who you have that follow you, who comment back, who actually make it social on social media and have those conversations. And then when that person does email you, maybe it's just to say hey, I just wanted to say hello. I love what you guys are doing. I'm really encouraged by, Creative at Heart or Illume or Making Things Happen, whatever it is that, whoever it is you're reaching out to. And I just wanted to introduce myself and say that I'm really encouraged by what you guys are doing. And thank you for all of your hard work. I don't know. You don't have to suck up to them, but I just think it's nice to not have the initial pitch in the first email, because it can be taken in the wrong way. So just making it more personal, making it a connection point. And then I feel the educators or the speakers, goodness, I can't talk. The conference host is a lot more likely to remember you if you then submit an official application or you circle back around when you know that they're starting to work on the next conference. And you want to really throw your name in the hat, so to speak, and be considered. Another point to bring up, just real quick, I know we're over 2, but this is all good stuff, guys. Another point to bring up is it's also really helpful to have connection points. I really love if I know someone who knows you, that makes me feel so much more encouraged and confident that, oh, she's not only showing that she's a great speaker on Instagram or on her demo reel or with the content she has, but this person that I hold to very high esteem also recommends them. That makes me feel even better. Think about it from our own businesses, the people that we hire into our business as our web designer, as our copywriter, as our virtual assistant, as our wedding planner, wedding photographer, whatever. It's typically because we have that personal connection and we like the referral based. Conference hosts are the same way. So it doesn't mean that you have to then start making all these friends with people you're not necessarily friends with. But if you know somebody who you're hey, I know that you have a really great connection with this person, would you mind looping me into that introduction? Jess and I have done that before, and it does make it feel so much more natural when you're starting a conversation with someone because you have common ground. Or if you don't want to ask that person, I've had people email me and say, hey, we're really good good friends with Jess. We're really good friends with Caitlin. We're really good friends with Ashlyn. We see what they're doing for Creative at Heart, and we're just so encouraged, and we would love to be a part of it somehow. So I'm immediately like, I'm going to text Jess. I'm going to text Ashlyn. I'm going to email this person and ask them about so-and-so who just emailed me and said their name in my email. Does that make sense, guys? That like circle there. So not being afraid to name drop, not being afraid to say who you know that also knows this person, because referrals do speak so highly of you and of your personality. So hosts just feel so much more comfortable and confident moving forward with a person when they have that personal connection.
I love that. That is so important, because I mean, we can all understand that feeling, right? When you get the email that's asking you to be a part of something or to share something or to do something, and you're just like, how did you find me? You just don't understand where they came from, and it freaks you out. I freaks me out. Introvert freaks me out. No. But as soon as somebody says something that kind of breaks up those questions and concerns about, what are your intentions here, and shares that common ground of, I was so-and-so's client, or I'm friends with so-and-so, or so-and-so recommended you, it really just helps ease those nerves. And because we're a little skeptical, some people are crazy.
Absolutely. All right. So we have 2 more questions, and they're both really good ones. So I want to answer them, and then we'll get off here. So Jess, this is a question definitely for you. It's from Megan. So I'm tuning in today because I'm interested in gaining insight on educating. I'm a designer who recently started educating by teaching graphic designers courses at a college where I live in Oregon. I'm interested. Can you recommend any resources or tools that help you learn how to communicate content and experience verbally, teach more effectively, craft and organize the talks? So what are some, or do you have resources that you can recommend to them, Jess?
One, I'm so excited that you're doing it at a school, because you may not realize it now, but that's like my bread and butter. And I love that. And so that is so awesome. And I love that you're asking that question about how do you make that more valuable? Like, how do you curate that? So there's a couple things that I would, let me pull the question back up so I don't mom brain, so that I make sure I get this well. So when it comes to creating the talks, I don't think I have a resource for that as of today. Not that there won't be one next month with the podcast, but I actually personally right now, so how this has worked for me before leading up to this point is I actually work one-on-one and create talks and content with my clients. But maternity leave is coming. I'm also expecting a baby like Kat. And that means I'm having to switch out of being hands-on and getting to baby that. So we actually will, as of next month, have a self-study thing that you can go through that will show you this is how you write your talk. And just for that piece, because we have a whole program. It's called the Speaker Blueprint, and it's A to Z, everything you need for speaking, from writing your talks, from outreach, all of that. But I know that one little puzzle piece of how do we create that content that's high value for our audience should be separate. And I've just babied it because it's been my baby to write with my clients and be all up in it. But I don't obviously want to leave anybody high and dry and say, well, I'm going to be gone having a baby, so you don't get to write talks. So we will have that available as of next month. But I think it is so important for you to really ask those questions, and I'll just run through them again for you before you curate the content as to what is going to be their sticking point, what is their biggest hurdle, or what's the thing that we need to get them, what's the result we need to get them through this lecture, presentation, whatever, module, anything, it goes across the board. What is the end result I need them to get when they're done with this? What is it they have to do in order to get that result? Here's the kicker. What objections are they going to have that would stop them from taking action on it? Because if we don't address those during the talk, we will lose people. Why am I the person to do this? And what can we teach them to keep getting a result after we leave? Those are going to be the pieces that if you can work those into the presentation, you're gold. You've addressed why you're the expert. You've made that common ground. You've overcome their objections. You gave them step-by-step action steps, and then you gave them something that they can keep doing after you're done. And I hope that helps.
That's awesome. And don't forget just even Jess's blog, you guys. And like, while I know she's crafting all these free resources and, paid resources that'll be available next month, her blog is an awesome resource right now that you guys can pop into and take a look at. So while we answer this last question, Jess, will you pop in your blog link and then also the quiz link again, just for them to be able to do that and go through those tiers? Lindsay, I see your question over here in the chat. And no, we didn't answer this already, so you're totally fine, girl. Would you recommend having a downloadable media kit on our speaking page as a convenience for organizers, or is there a better way to provide it? So while Jess is typing, because I know it's hard to multitask, I'll answer from the conference organizer standpoint and then let Jess answer. And we might have different answers, but that's okay. For me personally, I could go either way. I think as long as you have that content that you would have in a PDF on your website, I don't need the downloadable PDF. Sometimes, to be totally transparent, the website is perfectly fine. It's sometimes even better because I might have things on a spreadsheet and then just like to have that website link right there versus having to be like, wait, where's that downloadable PDF? What file did I put it in? So on the organizational side of things, for me personally, the website works just fine. But that's going to be each organizer, I feel like, probably organizes their things a little bit differently. Well, I know we do. So it's going to depend on what they prefer. But my opinion from the Creative at Heart standpoint is as long as you have what you would have on a downloadable guide on your website as a speaking page, I don't need the downloadable guide.
I love that. It's such a good insight. Okay, so I just dropped the links in there. Oh, you guys are the best. But yes, so if you have specific speaking questions, if you do the quiz and you get a result and you're like, why am I 1, 2, or 3, just hit reply. I'm the person who answers them. You can just ask me any questions. I'm an open book. and I'm available right now until the baby's here. You got time. So ask now before you don't hear from me. When it comes to a downloadable PDF, so back in the day, like when I first started speaking, because I'm old and MySpace was a thing, speaker one sheets, which would be like a PDF, were the thing because throwing together a website was not an easy thing like it is right now. You could throw up a website today and have it done. Granted, we're all creative and we're probably going to be picky and take forever and make it gorgeous, but hypothetically speaking, you could throw up a website probably in an hour with not much experience. I mean, shoot, my 4-year-old might be able to because they're so smart these days with technology. But the priority would always be the page, having a speaker page. As far as a PDF, I personally, as somebody who gets to pair people up, I would love if you had a PDF that just summarized everything on that website, basically, in your back pocket. I don't think it needs to be downloadable on your page. The only time that you might be seeing people have all these downloadable resources, thank you very much. We've got a child going to make an interruption and dogs barking. I apologize. You're going to see things like downloadable headshots and media kits and tech writers and travel writers when you're looking at speakers who are super busy and they're in high demand and they're tier 3 and they're speaking all the time and they literally just let the event planner or whatever go get all the materials that they need. We're probably not there yet, but what I do think is important is having all of that content in a PDF for one reason and one reason only. If you're filling out an application and you need to attach it, you will find that sometimes. So I love for you to have that content in a PDF in your back pocket, just so that there's nothing stopping you from hitting submit, because there's so many of us who will bookmark all the speaker applications and never fill them out because we don't have any of those resources ready. So if you can have that done, it just puts you a step closer to actually submitting the thing. And granted, you're not going to find very many speaker applications. Most organizers are handpicking their speakers. But when you do find one, you want to make sure that you are ready to fill that sucker out. Hope that makes sense.
No, that's a great point and something I never thought about. So I think that's awesome. I know I said, guys, that was the last question. I'm just going to answer Jessica's super fast girl. I really want to answer this for you. She just popped it in. It says, as a conference host, are you less likely to ask somebody who's never spoken before? Just curious how to get experience speaking at small engagements prior to trying to be a speaker at a larger conference. And I just want to answer this for all of you guys who are kind of in that, this would be my first time speaking, and you're really growing in your own confidence as calling yourself a speaker and also starting to put yourself out there. Only speak for me from the creative at heart standpoint. Every conference organizer is going to think a little bit differently and have in their mind what they're looking for in their educator lineup. But for us at Creative at Heart, we have had quite a few first-time speakers in the past, whether it's a keynote speaker or a breakout leader. That does not bother me. I actually love that. I love that we can help them and utilize our platform to help grow their business. We are all creatives, and that's exactly what we want to do at Creative at Heart. The thing that probably defers me from asking a first-time speaker is if they've never attended Creative at Heart before. I'll be very blunt with you guys about that. Jess mentioned this a little bit before. We love to elevate our family and we love to elevate our alumni. So if I'm looking at someone who's an alumni and it's their first speaking engagement versus someone who's not an alumni and it's their first speaking engagement and they have very similar talks that they're pitching to me, I'm probably going to go with the alumni because we have that commonality right there. So that's where putting yourself out there by attending those workshops and conferences can be really helpful because you're putting yourself out there as to be able to network and get to know those other organizers. But don't shy away from submitting an application to a larger conference if you've never spoken before. Because if you have all those things that Jess has been talking about, if you have that content to back it up, if you have testimonials from coaching clients or past clients where you see that you are teaching the content and able to not just regurgitate, but actually see results by teaching. If you have all of that, you guys, who's to say you're not good enough to speak? Like, we need to throw that fear out the window that like, oh, I'm not good enough. I've never spoken before. I can't apply. And actually just get our butts out there and put on our big girl panties and actually start applying for those speaking engagements. Yes, you're going to get turned down, but you're also going to have those doors that get opened. So I want to encourage you, regardless of whether you feel like it's a large or a small conference, or if you have the experience or not, put yourself out there and start applying.
I love that. And I love that you shared that exact example of like if a topic came in from somebody who was an alumni and not an alumni, because I think that's so important too, is that you're not the only one person putting in for this topic. So you want to make sure that you have all of those key pieces in place, and relationships are a big part of that. I'm sorry, who asked that question though? So I can actually address you. Was it Megan? Jessica. It was Jessica. That's who it was. So,
yes, another Jessica.
I feel like I know that. Mom brain. So what I will say though, it's not going to be something that stops you from getting speaking engagements at all. You just need to pull the Band-Aid off and get that first one under your belt because you'll feel so much better. But so we have a new thing now where we work with we help them find their speakers. And I literally just had a request come in last night from an organizer who's planning an event a little bit outside of the creative industry. It's business stuff, but not necessarily creatives. And they're somebody who doesn't have a large budget. So the first thing that I'm recommending to that organizer is that we find speakers close to home, so we don't have all those travel expenses. So that would mean somebody who maybe is less experienced of a speaker, but is closer to this event and could do it, is going to have preference over somebody who's more experienced and commands a speaker fee. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into those decision makings, and not being experienced is not going to be a deal breaker for somebody. So I love that.
Thank you for sharing that. That's such a good point too. Okay, guys, I know we went over, but those were really great questions. So thank you, Jess, for answering all of those and hanging out with me for today's coffee chat. I just popped her links back in just so they were right here at the bottom of the chat. So you guys should pop over, make sure you are reading her blog, sign up for her newsletter list. She's got a lot of fun resources rolling out in the next couple of months, which is going to be awesome. And pop over and take her quiz to find out if you're tier 1, 2, or 3. I would love for you guys to take advantage of that and find out which speaking tier you fall into right now for your business.